John Parker Wilson, I hope you're having a great day, man. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Man, having a great day. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. 102 days. When we get down to double digits, like something, it'll just feel like football a little bit. Not really, but we'll be a little closer.
We're definitely closer, and we're getting close to double digits. So, I mean, 3 months, a little over 3 months is not that long away. And then you don't even count training camp, so that's about a month. So really we're like a little over 2 months from football, right?
Yeah, we will be. Yeah. So we'll start right there end of July, 1st of August, which will be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think we're going to have a good team coming back this year. A lot to make up from last year, even though we made it to the national championship. I know this team's hungry, ready to go for next year. So it's going to be an interesting year, and we're getting closer and closer, trying to avenge that loss that we lost the last game against Clemson.
Well, and CBS Sports published an article earlier today, and one of the 5 questions that they've got going into college football, one of the questions that they've got, number 3, is how Alabama responds. How do you think they'll respond?
I think judging from, if you just look at the past Coach Saban teams, how they handle these kind of losses, and most of his teams have had losses in the postseason like this. I think it makes the team stronger. It makes them more hungry. It makes them realize how close and how hard it is to get to the postseason, to play in the SEC championship, to play in the college football playoffs, and then to make it to the national championship. It's not easy. And all the work that you do put into it, you want to make sure that you're able to tweak and change things along the way throughout the season. So, the loss, as terrible as it was, it allows you to take a step back at the program and say, where are we at? Where do we need to go to get to where we want? And it's still, arguably the best program in the country. So you take that and you just use it as fuel to get to the national championship again, and this time try to go out and win it, because I think it is easy to forget how hard it is to be in the position that Alabama has been in. But you got to look at Coach Saban and say, okay, where is this team moving forward? And it is about getting back there and avenge the loss, because I know how close we were last year and how much it means to everybody. So you just try to get back. And this time of year, I think this is what separates the good teams from the great teams, is being able to really hammer down right now and get ready for training camp and then get ready for the season.
John Parker, I'm a huge Deontay Wilder fan. I like the guy. I think what he's been able to do. I mean, coming from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to become the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. And one of the things that he talked, and I'm trying to tie this to football, he talked about going back to not the basics, but he said he had to go back. He realized when he fought Tyson Fury back in late 2018, he said, it was a draw. And he said, not that he didn't lose by 28 points, but he said, I had to go back. I had to refocus on what made me the great boxer. He goes in 2 minutes, 17 seconds, knocks out Dominic Brazil this past weekend. And you kind of tie Alabama back there to that. Champions that kind of get hit in the mouth a little bit. They're like, hold on a minute, let me go back to the basics. And Alabama, Nick Saban has been talking about this word, Alabama factor. It has been a conversation that is continued. What does the Alabama factor mean to you? When you hear that word, Alabama factor, what does it mean to John Parker Wilson? What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it means a lot of the things that you just talked about with Deontay, and that's appreciating where you're at and where you've been and everything that got him there. And there is a lot of similarity between our program and him. I think being able to be humble enough to say that. I mean, this guy's at the top of this sport. Not everybody can say that. They've got to go back to basics and get back to what brought me here, to be humble enough to say, hey, I'm not doing everything 100% right. The program is not doing everything 100% right, but we've got a good process. We've got a good foundation. We've got a good philosophy. It's just going and being able to change that and then working your butt off to be able to do that and make those dreams to become reality. And he did that. I mean, he's fighting on the biggest stages in the world, being in a solo sport, and for him to be able to, really swallow the pride and saying we got to get back to what we were doing before, and do the old school training camp and come back. That's the Alabama factor. It's the tradition, realizing that, but also knowing that doesn't get you anywhere the next year. We can have the best program in the history of everything, but that doesn't mean anything for the next year. And I think Coach Saban's always talking about that. It's not being entitled. It's going out there and working and getting to it. Deontay did it this past weekend. Now Alabama's got it too. And I think everything that's come out of the entire program, from Coach Saban to Tua to everybody else, it's saying, okay, we were the runner-up of the national championships. We were the runner-up of the Heisman. We're really close. Let's figure out how to get to the next step. And it's not easy to do that. It's not easy to be that humble and saying, hey, we've got to make some changes. I think for me as a fan, that's so encouraging to say, hey, let's take that next step and continue this journey that we've been on.
John Parker, what was Nick Saban like? We know the Nick Saban now, and it's hard for me to even imagine as he was implementing his system. It takes time. All the great coaches, when they come in, you look at all these second-year head football, it's the same. When you look back at Nick Saban's first year. But what was he like? What was, because now we see a loss, and it's, I mean, I don't even know how the guy, he said it before. He said, I hate to lose more than I like to win. He's repeated that several times. But going back to 2007, when there was a few losses on the record, what was he like? How did he handle
it? Pretty similar to how he handles a win. I mean, I think that's the thing that separates Coach Saban is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you did the last week. It doesn't matter what you did the last play. It doesn't matter what you did the last year. It's how you handle it moving forward. And, yeah, we've seen some success from some young coaches in 2 or 3 years, but to be able to sustain it like he has, you can't do that without throwing the foundation down like he did to come in. And, his first year, we were close in a lot of games. We lost to Georgia in overtime, should have beat Auburn, should have beat LSU. We were close, but it was just we had to go through those growing pangs of figuring out how to win. And he's been able to sustain that because of that process that he started back in 2007. And then the next class builds on it, and then the next class builds on that. And now, 12 years later, they're still continuing to build on that, but they haven't lost focus of who they are and where they've got there. I mean, he brought this process from Michigan State, won in the national championship at LSU, brought the same thing to Alabama. It was just people had to adapt to what he was doing. We were able to do it pretty quickly. And now you can see his leadership and how he's rubbed off on everybody else in the program, being the players, on being able to continue that process. Because I completely agree. I would much rather, or I hate losing. It's the worst thing. And now you just take that loss and you figure out how to get better. And that's the thing is just you can't get bored with repetition. You can't get bored with doing the right thing all the time. It's whether you're playing offense or you're running a program, you just can't get bored with consistency. And that's why we've been able to sustain the programs for so long.
We're talking to John Parker Wilson, color analyst for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And certainly when you look at this SEC, it's the toughest league in all of college football, but even more so in the SEC West. I believe that this is the toughest division in all of college football. It's a dog-eat-dog world over here in the SEC West.
Yeah, there's no question about it. If you just look from the top to the bottom of the SEC West, it's tough. And you got to play these people year in and year out. You look at Alabama being the favorite. LSU is right there. A&M's got a good program, and Jimbo Fisher's a great coach. You look at Auburn's going to have a good team coming back. Who's going to play quarterback? Who's going to be their people? And then you keep going down the list of Ole Miss. They're kind of struggling, but Mississippi State, I think they've got a really good program going down. So you look to 5 and 6 on the list in just the West, and there's teams that can beat anybody in the country week in and week out, and that's what makes it tough. And I think you look at the postseason of the SEC schools versus some other conferences, and there you can look at the gauntlet that you have to go through the SEC. But you can't make any excuses. You just got to build your program to get through that, and then be able to win in the postseason. But the West is deep. It's always been deep, and I think with Mississippi State getting better, it's getting even deeper as we speak.
John Parker, you ever wanted to take like some of these teams, because Alabama has blocked so many teams from going to Atlanta. Like you look at Mississippi State a couple of years ago, they were number 1 and they were undefeated as they played Alabama. You ever think about taking a team out of the SEC West and putting them over in the East or another league, and you think about, could they win the ACC? Could they win, this conference, that division? You think about Alabama and blocking. Mississippi State's had some quality teams. LSU has had some quality teams. you think about this Alabama roadblock in Tuscaloosa that throw up the stop sign and say, hey, you got to get through us.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes it so tough to be Alabama right now is you are the circled opponent on everybody else's schedule. If they beat Alabama, they got a chance, but you got to be able to beat Alabama to be able to get to Atlanta, and that's the first goal on the road to getting to the national championship is you got to get to Atlanta, and that's what everybody talks about is winning your conference or winning your division to be able to get to the conference championship. Alabama's made it tough for everybody, but Mississippi State a couple of years ago they could have been there and they could have made a run deep in the playoffs. Also, LSU's always close. Ole Miss has been down, and so has Arkansas. But even last year, look at Mississippi State. Moorhead came in. Didn't win as many games as he wanted to, but he had the number one defense in the country. I mean, they've got some things to build on that everybody's gearing up to beat Alabama. That it makes it tough when you're Alabama that you're getting everyone's best opponent, and they might rest some people the week before just to get ready for you. So you just know that coming in. That's part of it. That's what part of makes it fun playing at Alabama is just knowing that if you win, you're getting everybody's best shot.
Does it ever, like, when you see people that you have an investment in, you see people have struggles and it kind of hurts a little bit. And Jim McElwain is one of those guys. I think he's one of the good guys in the business. And I hate when people bring up that it didn't work out down in Florida. It didn't work out. I get it. He goes to Michigan. Now he's at Central Michigan. But you kind of pull for good guys like that. I mean, I love Mac. I know you do as well. But as I look at Central Michigan, I think this guy gets that second chance, and hopefully he can find a way to get back in, make that move back to the Power 5 because he's awfully a great guy.
No doubt. I think he will. I think he's such a good coach. He is definitely one of the good guys. I mean, he's a great coach. He gets the X's and O's. He understands how to run an offense. I haven't been around as a head coach, but he's had some good stops. Florida was a tough situation going down there. It was his first time in a big program. So you learn some things going in that. And now he's been able to be at a lot of different places. You learn from every stop you've been. And now he's compiling a database of things when he does get his next big job of coming back and saying, hey, this is what I did really well before. I need to change this moving forward. But I think the way he connects with his players and the staff and everybody, he's going to be a good coach for a long time. There's no doubt in my mind because he can definitely run an offense. And I loved, just the 1 year that I had with him of calling plays and going out there and trying to figure out ways to win. But he's going to be successful. There's no doubt in my mind. He's a great guy and a great coach, and he's going to go a long way.
Hey, go to ESPN if you get a chance later in the night and go and read the article from Adam Rittenberg. He wrote an article on Mac and talking about how, he's kind of had to humble himself a little bit, which he's always been a humble guy, but it kind of writes the article. It says Jim McElwain lives in a barn and works in a trailer. The new digs at Central Michigan suit him just fine. But it talks about, starting back, and it's kind of fun to see that. We're pulling for Jim McElwain there in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Go read that article. John Parker, let's talk about Tuscaloosa Toyota, the great dealership right there on Skyline Boulevard. I'll turn it over to you.
The number one volume Toyota certified dealer in the state. It's Tuscaloosa Toyota. You get the best price first. There's no haggling, no back and forth. You go to the lot, you go on the website. Their best price is right there in the window. 0% financing a lot of the cars right now. The 2020 Toyota Corolla, you name it, they've got it. The 2019 Camry is also 0% financing plus a $500 cash bonus. It's the car buying process simplified. No surprises, no hassles. The best price first. It's one price at one place. So check them out at tuscaloosatoyota.com.
John Parker Wilson, have a wonderful week, man. Enjoy. Happy Memorial Day from all of us here in Tuscaloosa. We'll catch up next week. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
You too, my man. Roll Tide.